In the high-stakes world of corporate business, power isn't just given, it's taken through sheer, unyielding force. I've spent my entire life building this armor, ensuring that every step I take is calculated and every gaze I meet is one of submission. They see the vice president of a massive trading company, a woman who has everything under control. But beneath the crisp suits and the flawless briefings, I am a machine fueled by a desperate need for order. My employees whisper about my transformation. They call me the ideal boss now, a far cry from the fire-breathing dragon I used to be. They think I've softened, that I've finally found peace at the top of the mountain. If only they knew the truth. Inside, I am screaming. Every moment of perfection is a battle against the chaos clawing at my throat. Perfection isn't a choice for someone like me. It is survival. If I slip, even for a second, I'm afraid I'll disappear entirely. All I ever wanted was a simple, carefree life, a quiet corner of the world where I didn't have to be a shield for everyone else. But here I am, trapped in a reality where one misstep feels like a death sentence, hiding my tears behind closed doors. Finally, the day arrived, the home stretch, the very last box to unpack in the sanctuary I built for myself. I was exhausted, my body aching from years of relentless pursuit, but the finish line was right here. For the first time in my life, I could breathe, I could smile. I had done it. Welcome home, Jihan. This was my sweet slice of paradise, the one thing no one could take away from me. Growing up in an orphanage, you learn quickly that nothing is permanent. You have no safety net, only your own grit. I clawed my way through every interview, every entry-level position, and every corporate betrayal to reach this moment. And yet, as I stood there, a proud owner of my own home, something felt off. I stepped out onto the balcony, wanting to soak in the view of the city that I had finally conquered. I was going to treat myself. No more late nights, no more reports, just me and a quiet dinner. Then it happened. A sudden, violent throb in my chest that stole the air from my lungs. Not again. My heart has been aching lately, but the doctors insisted it was just stress. I tried to distract myself with a soap opera while I ate. The villainess on screen was screaming about revenge, her eyes full of a madness I couldn't understand. Sarah Shin, that was her name. A woman who lived her life like a walking explosion, crossing everyone in her path. It was so melodramatic. I couldn't imagine living with that much rage, that much unnecessary drama. Watching her was almost a relief. Her problems were loud and fake, unlike the quiet, heavy pressure in my own chest. She was all bark and no bite, constantly threatening death and destruction while her own life crumbled around her. But I suppose that's the charm of these shows. You keep watching, despite yourself, just to see the train wreck happen. I was in too deep now. I might as well see how this villainess meets her end. But the end came for me first. The pain returned, sharper and more final than anything I'd ever felt. It was as if my heart was being torn apart by invisible hands, the darkness closing in from the edges of my vision. I fell to my knees, the world spinning. I couldn't even call for help. I was alone in my perfect new home. What is this? I just got here. I just started living. The sound of my own heartbeat was a deafening thud against the floorboards. I reached out, my fingers trembling as the light began to fade. My heart, it's really stopping. After everything I went through, after all that grit and sacrifice, this is it. A pathetic, solitary death in an empty apartment. I staggered, my phone slipping from my grasp as the world tilted into an abyss. The silence was absolute. I was gone. Everything I worked for, every dream I nurtured, vanished in a single heartbeat. I closed my eyes for the last time, accepting the cold embrace of the end. My hand lay limp on the carpet, inches away from a life I would never get to lead. The screen of my life went black, the credits rolling on a story that ended far too soon. But then, a flicker, a spark of light in the void. My fingers, they twitched, a sensation of soft fabric beneath my touch. My eyes felt heavy, but there was a warmth I didn't recognize. I wasn't cold anymore. I opened my eyes, expecting the sterile white of a hospital or the darkness of the afterlife. Instead, my head was pounding with a rhythmic, dull ache. I was alive, but where? I sat up, the room spinning. This wasn't my apartment. This wasn't anywhere I had ever been. A voice cut through the fog. Someone was calling for a professor, sounding urgent and frustrated. A woman stood over me, her face a mask of annoyance. She called me a drama queen, shouting about my absence from the company. She looked furious, her eyes burning with a resentment that felt deeply personal. She grabbed me, shaking me as if to wake me from a dream I didn't know I was in. She kept talking about Seongwon trading, about me being holed up in my room instead of running the business. I stared at her, my mind blank. Who was she, and who did she think I was? Then she said the name, Sarah Shin. She told me not to move, addressing me as the woman from the show. Sarah Shin? The name echoed in my mind, a chilling realization beginning to take hold. I bolted out of bed, my heart racing for a different reason now. This couldn't be happening. I glanced around the room, everything feeling strangely familiar, yet completely alien. I slid toward the mirror, my hands trembling as I reached for my own face. The reflection staring back at me wasn't Jiahan. It was her, the villainess from the soap opera. The same red hair, the same sharp features. But something was missing. There was no scar. I clearly remembered hitting my head when I collapsed, but my forehead was flawless. This room, the lavish decorations, the overwhelming sense of wealth, it was exactly like the set of the show. I don't believe it. I can't. I've somehow been reincarnated as a fictional monster. In the hallway, I could hear them talking. They thought I had short-term memory loss from a concussion. The professor told the woman to manage my stress. Stress? They have no idea. This has to be some kind of sick joke. I died at the historic moment of finally buying my own house, only to end up here? Sarah Shin, the villainess who tormented everyone around her, and now I was her. Memories that weren't mine began to flood my mind, images of cruelty and arrogance. I could see her, me, doing terrible things, threatening the innocent, living a life of pure malice. According to these memories, I've possessed her at the worst possible time. In the upcoming storyline, the ruthless Sarah Shin meets her inevitable end. She gets destroyed by the 3 male leads who are in love with the woman she tortured. And her ending, her final destination in this story, is death. Oh, hell no. I didn't survive a lifetime of poverty and a heart attack just to be executed in a soap opera. I grabbed a suitcase, my movements fueled by pure panic. I needed to get out of here before the plot caught up to me. I zipped up my boots, refusing to play out the life of this blasted she-devil. I'm out of here. I'll leave the wealth, the company, and the drama behind. I just want to live. I just needed to make it past the gate. If I could disappear now, maybe I could change my fate. I clawed my way up from rock bottom once before. I can do it again. Starting over with nothing is better than a death sentence. I reached for the gate, my heart pounding against my ribs. Almost there. But then the hand clamped down on my wrist, stopping me dead in my tracks. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. I didn't even hear him approach. The force of the grip was absolute, a silent command that I wasn't going anywhere. I turned, my eyes wide with terror. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. Where do you think you're going, Sarah Shin? The voice was cold, dangerous, and far too familiar. The nightmare was just beginning. Just as I'm about to slip away from this nightmare, the one man I need to avoid most blocks my path. Ro Unli. Of all the people to run into while I'm trying to make my escape, it had to be him. His eyes are cold, filled with a familiar, sharp intensity that makes my blood run cold. In the original story, he was the underdog, the illegitimate child who lost everything and came to the company in utter desperation. He managed to climb the corporate ladder, eventually rising to become the vice president against all odds. But the original Sarah Shin, the rightful heir, couldn't stand to see a gutter rat take what she believed was hers. She was brutal. In her eyes, Rowan was nothing more than an obstacle to be crushed. She didn't just hate him, she loathed the very ground he walked on, constantly insulting his mother and his origins. Their history is written in blood and broken glass, a cycle of violence that Sarah started herself. She was willing to do anything to keep her power, even if it meant destroying him completely. They became locked in a relationship of pure mutual hatred, each one desperate to be the one to finish the other off. Eventually, Rowan found a woman who actually cared for him, and they fell deeply in love amid the chaos Sarah created. But Sarah's tyranny didn't stop. She pushed them both to the brink until they couldn't take it anymore. That was the turning point. Rowan decided that for them to live, Sarah had to die. He orchestrated her murder, making it look like a tragic car accident in the dead of night. And now, knowing that this is how my story is supposed to end, I refuse to let it happen. I need to get out of here, right now, regardless of how suspicious I look to him. I try to play it off, telling him I'm done with the company and the drama, that he can have it all. But he doesn't buy it for a second. To him, I'm just playing another one of my sick games. I'm literally handing him everything he ever wanted, but our history is too dark for him to see anything but a trap. He's convinced I'm up to something, his grip tightening as he demands to know my real plan. It hurts. He's tired of cleaning up my messes, and frankly, I'm tired of being the one who makes them. I see the anger in his eyes, the years of resentment boiling over in this one moment. I've had enough of being trapped by a script I didn't write. I need him to let go. In a moment of pure desperation, I strike out. A sharp smack to the head to finally get through to him. He stumbles back, shocked. The original Sarah might have been cruel, but she never acted this recklessly. I tell him straight to his face, I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. He can have the house and the company. He looks at me like I've truly lost my mind, but for the first time, I feel like I might actually be free. I turn to walk away, ignoring the confusion and the heat rising in my chest. But then, it hits me. A pain so sharp it steals the air right out of my lungs. My heart feels like it's being squeezed by iron claws. It's happening again. I stagger, my vision blurring as I try to reach for anything to keep myself upright. Is the story itself trying to stop me? Am I not allowed to walk away from my own destruction? I collapse, the darkness taking over before I can even make it to the door. When I finally open my eyes, I'm back in the very place I was trying to escape. My heart is still thumping wildly. I can't understand why my body is betraying me like this. The doctor's visit is a waste of time. He says there's nothing physically wrong with me. He calls it psychosomatic, a result of extreme stress. If only he knew the half of it. I leave the hospital feeling more trapped than ever, with the weight of the original plot looming over me. My mother is already there, berating me for another stunt as if I'm doing this for attention. She tells me Rowan was the one who carried me to my room. Great, now I owe my murderer a thank you. I try to tell her I need a break, some time away to recover, but she isn't listening. To her, I'm just being difficult, wasting the opportunities she worked so hard to give me. Then she mentions the one name I hoped I'd never hear. Jaeon, my fiancé. Jaeon Cha. Another male lead in this twisted drama, and the man Sarah was obsessed with. He's supposed to be the perfect man, but he treats Sarah with nothing but cold contempt. He only agreed to the engagement for the sake of his own business interests, not because he cared for her. Sarah used to beg for his attention, making a fool of herself just to get a single glance from him. But every time she tried to get close, he pushed her away, making it clear they were nothing more than partners on paper. She was a villainess to the world, but to him, she was just a pathetic, useful tool. He's the man who will eventually break her heart and watch her fall without lifting a finger. I'm lying in bed, staring at my phone, knowing I have to cut this tie before it strangles me. The original Sarah might have loved bad boys who treated her like trash, but that is definitely not my style. I send the text, a clean break. I tell him we should go our separate ways, and I thank him for everything. But as soon as I hit send, that familiar, crushing pain returns to my chest. Is this my fate? To die of a heart attack if I don't die as a villainess? It's a lose-lose situation. I'm tossing and turning, screaming into my pillow. I refuse to accept that there's no way out. Suddenly, my phone rings. My heart skips a beat, but this time it's from pure nerves. It's a message from Jaeon. He doesn't want to break up over text. He wants to meet in person. Fine, if a face-to-face meeting is what it takes to end this engagement, then I'll do it. The next day, I find myself walking into one of the most expensive buildings in the city. The opulence is sickening. Rich people really do live in a completely different world. I'm led through the halls, each step feeling like I'm walking closer to another trap. I see him standing there, looking out over the city as if he owns every single bit of it. He turns around, and for a second, I can see why the original Sarah was so captivated by him. He's intimidating, radiating a sense of power and control that fills the entire room. He tells me to have a seat, his voice as smooth and cold as a polished stone. I try to keep my composure, putting on a brave face even though my hands are shaking slightly. I can't help but think that if Sarah hadn't loved this man so much, her life wouldn't have been such a disaster. He's the one who will find genuine love with the protagonist, while Sarah is left in the dust. In the original plot, after he breaks the engagement, she gets tangled up in a massive financial scandal. She becomes a criminal in the eyes of the law, facing charges for things she didn't even do. She loses her family, her wealth, and the man she loves, ending up with absolutely nothing. I have to avoid getting involved with him at all costs. My survival depends on it. He looks at me, his eyes narrowing as he asks the question I knew was coming. Why do I want to break it off? I take a deep breath, searching for an answer that won't trigger another heart attack. I just give him a small, casual smile and tell him, I just felt like it. Jaeon's gaze is heavy with a familiar, tired skepticism. He thinks he knows me, thinks this is just another performance in a long line of desperate plays for his attention. He's quick to remind me of the girl I used to be, the one who would have done anything, groveled at his very feet, just for the chance to wear his ring. I try to keep my voice steady, masking the tremor of my nerves with a shrug. I tell him I just felt like it, a simple whim to end a lifelong obsession. He closes his eyes, a hand going to his temple as if I'm a headache he can't shake. To him, my life, my heart, it's all just some sort of game. He stands, his presence filling the room with a cold, corporate authority. He's done with the theatrics, done with what he calls my childish emotional antics. In his world, marriage isn't about love or even like. It's a business arrangement, a contract signed in ink that can't be erased by a sudden change of heart. I look him in the eye, searching for a single crack in that polished exterior. If it's business, then why hold on to a partner who wants out? I see a flicker of something. Discomfort? Irritation? It's the first time I've actually made him squirm, and the power shift is intoxicating. I push further, twisting the knife. For all the talk of business, we didn't even sign a prenup. There's nothing binding us but a promise I no longer want to keep. I look at him and realize the truth. The girl who loved him is gone. I don't even particularly like the man standing in front of me anymore. A mocking thought crosses my mind, and I can't help but voice it. I ask him if he's the one who's developed feelings in the meantime. His face darkens, a quiet fury simmering behind his eyes. The suggestion that he could care is an insult to his cold, calculated nature. He thinks I'm trying to bait him into a confession, trying to force a hand he refuses to play. He sees my desperation, where there is only a desire for freedom. His voice drops, turning into a low, dangerous warning. He's tired of indulging me, tired of the tests he thinks I'm constantly setting. The verdict is final. We proceed as planned. He'll marry me, but he'll never acknowledge me. I'm to be a ghost in his house, a wife in name only. He dismisses me like a nuisance, turning his back as if I've already ceased to exist. He has meetings, a life that doesn't include my protests. Before I can even process the rejection, his security is there to escort me out. The humiliation is swift and efficient. I struggle against the firm grip on my arm, my voice rising in a desperate final plea. I'm not testing him. I'm trying to save us both from a miserable future. He doesn't even look back. He stands by the window, a silhouette of a man who has already moved on to the next deal, leaving me to be dragged away. The frustration boils over, a raw, primal scream tearing through my throat. I'm done being the villainess in his story. My voice echoes against the glass of the skyscraper, a futile declaration of independence that the world seems determined to ignore. I stomp away, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Every step feels like I'm walking away from a life that was never truly mine to begin with. I catch my reflection in a shop window and see the anger burning in my eyes. How did Sarah ever think this man was worth her soul? I stop at the edge of the sidewalk, the weight of my bad karma pressing down on me. I'm trapped in a soap opera, playing a role I never auditioned for. But if I make better choices, if I refuse to follow the script, maybe I can find a way out. Maybe I don't have to be the one who loses everything. I watch the crowds move past, a sea of strangers who have no idea that the woman standing among them is trying to rewrite her destiny. The thought is interrupted by a deafening blast. A horn screams, cutting through my reflections like a blade. Time slows as a dark shape blurs into my peripheral vision. The world shrinks down to the smell of burning rubber and the rush of air. The car screeches to a halt, the bumper stopping just inches from my legs. My heart hammers against my ribs, the adrenaline turning my blood to ice. For a moment, there's only silence. Then the realization hits. He almost killed me. He almost ended it all before I could even start. I stare at the tinted glass. Fear turns into fury. This driver almost killed me, and I refuse to stay quiet. I don't think, I just move. I stomp toward the driver's side, my heels clicking like a countdown on the pavement. I lean down, my face inches from the window, shouting at the shadow inside. I demand he come out and face the person he almost mowed down. I bang my fist against the glass, the sound echoing through the street. I'm not some bystander he can just ignore. I'm the woman who's had enough. The window slides down. The man inside looks far too calm for someone who nearly hit me. He doesn't even look at me at first, his gaze fixed on something inside the car. The sheer arrogance of it makes my blood boil. Finally, he turns his head. He's handsome in a way that feels dangerous, his eyes bored and dismissive. "What's the problem?" he asks, his voice like silk. I'm momentarily stunned by his audacity. What's the problem? He nearly ended my life and he's asking me what the problem is? I point at the crosswalk, furious. He ran the light, broke the rules, and nearly erased me. He gives me a quick clinical glance, checking for blood or broken bones. When he sees I'm intact, his interest vanishes instantly. He sighs, as if my survival is a personal inconvenience to his schedule. He's already done with this conversation. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a card, flicking it toward me with a practiced, insulting ease. "Talk to my lawyer," he mutters. He thinks he can buy his way out of a conscience. He thinks a piece of cardstock is enough to compensate for the terror he just caused. I watch the car start to pull away, the engine purring like a satisfied predator. He really thinks he's just going to drive off? My hand goes to my forehead, the absurdity of the day finally catching up to me. First Jaeon, now this jerk. But I'm not the old Sarah anymore. I'm not the one who takes the hits and says thank you. I'm the one who fights back. I wind up, my body moving with a fluid, pent-up aggression. If he wants to treat the world like his personal playground, he can pay the price. I deliver a sharp, powerful kick to the side of his expensive car. The sound of metal meeting leather echoes through the street, satisfying and loud. The man's head snaps around, his eyes widening in genuine shock. He didn't expect the victim to have teeth. I stand my ground, my hand outstretched. I tell him to send the repair bill to the address on the card I just threw back at him. An eye for an eye, and rudeness for rudeness. I turn on my heel, leaving him staring at the dent in his precious machine. I can feel the eyes of the onlookers on me, some shocked, some impressed. I don't care. For the first time in 2 lives, I feel alive. Inside the car, the mystery man watches me walk away. The irritation in his eyes is slowly being replaced by something else. He picks up the card I left behind, his fingers tracing the embossed letters. He's not angry anymore. He's curious. He reads the name aloud, the words tasting like a challenge on his tongue. Sarah Shin. He lingers on the name, a small, dark smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. He's found a new interest, and it's much more entertaining than a board meeting. He looks at the card one last time before tucking it away. This isn't the last time our paths will cross. I can feel it in the air. He drives off, but the smile remains. He's looking for trouble, and he thinks he's found the perfect source. The next day, the reality of my new life sets in. I'm at the office, the towering glass walls of the company feeling more like a cage than a career. I have to show up here every day, as vice president. I have to play the part of the competent, powerful woman I'm supposed to be. I look down the long, sterile hallway, my heart sinking. How many floors of this corporate hell am I going to have to navigate? Then I see him, Ron Lee, the man who supposedly saved me when I collapsed, the one person who might have seen the real me. My mother's words echo in my head. I owe him thanks. I steady myself and step forward. I remember the flash of embarrassing memories, the way I must have looked, weak and vulnerable. It's a bitter pill to swallow. He's busy, his attention glued to his phone as he walks with a group of executives. He doesn't even notice me standing there. I call out his name, my voice sounding smaller than I intended in the vast lobby. He stops, his movements precise and controlled. He turns to face me, his expression unreadable. He waits for me to speak, his silence a wall I'm not sure I can climb. I struggle to find the words. I want to apologize for my behavior, to thank him for his help. I want to be someone he doesn't despise. I manage to get it out. A simple thank you, a small apology. I wait for a smile, a nod, anything to show that the air has cleared. But he just stares at me, his eyes cold and clinical. He looks at me as if I'm a problem he's already solved and doesn't want to revisit. That day comes rushing back, being carried, being judged, being seen at my weakest. The shame hits harder now. He doesn't say a word. He just turns back to his phone, his dismissal more painful than any insult he could have hurled. He warns me not to try anything. To him, even gratitude sounds like a scheme. He points to the garden cameras. He helped only because walking away would make him look negligent. He thinks I'm relishing this, that I'm using a trivial matter to get closer to him. He thinks I've struck gold. Don't flatter yourself, he says. The words are a slap in the face, a reminder that in this world I am still the villainess. I watch him walk away, his back straight and unyielding. He doesn't look back. He doesn't care if I'm hurt or angry. I stand there, alone in the middle of the lobby, my hand moving to my hair in a gesture of pure, frustrated exhaustion. I exhale, exhausted. This life is a disaster, and the first thing I have to repair is myself. The isolation in this office is starting to feel like a physical weight. I'm the vice president, yet everyone treats me like a ghost they're too afraid to acknowledge. I can feel the distance growing every day. I came back to reclaim my position, but I've become a pariah in my own company, trapped behind a desk while the world moves on without me. My own secretary can't even look me in the eye. He delivers my schedule like it's a death sentence, terrified of a woman he thinks he knows but has never actually met. Reports are being withheld, meetings held in secret. They're trying to erase my influence before I can even make a move. It's a quiet, corporate execution. And then there are the whispers. They follow me through the halls like a persistent shadow, dissecting my every choice, waiting for me to slip up again. Even my lunch isn't safe. Apparently, eating alone in the cafeteria is a headline-worthy scandal for the vultures on the company forums. They thrive on my supposed pathetic state. Do they really have nothing better to do? The pettiness is exhausting. I'm trying to survive a literal soap opera plot, and they're worried about who I sit with at noon. My frustration is interrupted by a heavy sigh. I don't even have to look up to know who's entered the room. Mr. Beck, the chief of staff and the chairman's most trusted ally. If he's here, it's usually because there's a fire that needs extinguishing. He carries himself with a cold, calculated precision. He's the one who keeps the family's secrets buried, and right now, I feel like one of those secrets. I try to play it off with a smile, but it feels brittle. I'm still trying to piece together the alliances in this building, and he's the most dangerous puzzle of all. He warns me to keep a low profile, his words a thinly veiled threat disguised as advice. It's clear the chairman is watching my every move. I promise to behave, but inside, the pressure is reaching a breaking point. I'm walking on eggshells in a house I used to own, and I'm not sure how much longer I can hold back the scream. Just as I think I might get a moment of peace, my secretary returns. An unannounced guest is insisting on a meeting, and for some reason, I can't bring myself to say no. I put on my best professional face, ready to handle whatever corporate headache has walked through the door. But the moment he steps inside, the air leaves my lungs. It's him, the man from the street. He stands there with a casual, predatory grace, a smile on his face that doesn't reach his eyes. "Hello there," he says, as if we're old friends sharing a secret. I try to maintain my composure, crossing my arms to hide the fact that my hands are shaking. I ask him what business he could possibly have in my office. He mentions the business card I gave him, calling it an open invitation. He's mocking me, using my own desperate gesture as a way to corner me. I offer my most polite refusal, telling him I'm too busy for chat and that he should take his business to my secretary. I just need him to leave, now. But he isn't going anywhere. He watches me with an intensity that makes my skin crawl, as if he can see right through the mask I'm wearing. He steps closer, invading my personal space and looming over me before I can even react. The warmth of his presence feels suffocating. He tells me he just came to see me, his voice dropping to a low, intimate murmur that feels like a threat disguised as a confession. He hands me a new card, his eyes never leaving mine. "Don't lose it," he warns, and the weight of the paper feels like a lead sinker in my palm. My heart hammers against my ribs as I look down at the name. I know this man, not from my life, but from the script. Jong-won So, the executive vice president of Sentinet Global, and the most dangerous man in this entire story. In the original plot, this man is a literal monster, a deranged predator who kidnaps and destroys Sarah Shin. I'm staring into the face of my future executioner. The script says he's a nutcase I should never associate with. Yet here he is, months ahead of schedule. He's rewritten the timeline. We weren't supposed to cross paths until the engagement party, but my own temper has dragged him into my life far too soon. He looks at me with a twisted kind of affection, asking why I can't just let go of the impossible. He's already obsessed, and I haven't even started to fight back. I have to get rid of him. If I let him stay, if I let him find a foothold in my life, the fatal finale the script promised will become my reality. He tilts his head, noticing my sudden change in demeanor. "What's wrong?" he asks, his tone dripping with mock concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I rub my temples, trying to ward off the coming migraine. My temper is ruining everything. I was supposed to be laying low, not inviting the main villain into my inner sanctum. I force a laugh, a bright, empty sound that masks my panic. I tell him there's nothing more to discuss and that my schedule is packed. But he's not finished with me. A slow, dark smile spreads across his face, and I realize I've walked right into his trap. He pulls out a small device, shaking it playfully. "It's all on the dash cam," he says, and my stomach drops. The verbal abuse, the moment I lost my mind and kicked his car, he has it all. He's holding my reputation in the palm of his hand, and he knows exactly how much it's worth. He mentions the rumors about me being a wild child. He knows I'm already on thin ice with the board, and he's more than happy to give me a push. I try to act unimpressed, but the fear is a cold knot in my chest. He's blackmailing me in my own office, and I have no defense. I glare at him, my mind racing for a way out. This isn't just a business social, it's a hostage situation, and I'm the prize. I try to turn it back on him, reminding him that his reckless driving is likely on every CCTV camera in the city. I won't go down without a fight. How dare he strut around so smugly after nearly causing a catastrophe? I step into his space, matching his intensity with my own fury. He looks amused, his eyes scanning my face with a hunger that makes me want to scream. He asks if I really want to play this game. Before I can answer, he gets close, his shadow engulfing me as he leans in to whisper his next move. He laughs, calling me transparent. He's enjoying the struggle, treating my desperation like a private performance just for him. I demand the dashcam footage, my voice rising in a mix of anger and terror. He's a lunatic, and I'm trapped in a room with him. He just smiles, that same calm, terrifying smile. He tells me we'll be seeing each other often, a promise that feels like a death sentence. He turns to leave, his presence lingering in the room like a bad omen. "See you around, Sarah," he calls out. "This was fun." I scream after him, my professionalism finally snapping. I want that footage and I want him out of my life, but he's already gone. I'm left panting, my heart racing, while my secretary watches with wide, terrified eyes. Another scandal, another set of rumors to bury. I collapse at my desk, burying my face in my hands. What was I thinking? Kicking his car was the stupidest thing I could have done. Mr. Beck is going to kill me. My phone dings, a sharp sound in the silence of the office. I almost don't want to look at it, fearing another disaster. But the name on the screen isn't a threat. Not a direct one, anyway. Seongang Lee, the female lead. The perfect woman I was destined to hate and eventually try to kill in the original story. She's asking if I'm okay, her concern radiating even through a text. In this world, she's the one person who seems to actually care, which makes her the most dangerous of all. I agree to meet her, hoping that some time away from the office will clear my head and help me figure out my next move. I see her waiting for me, and even from a distance, she's radiant. She's everything I'm not, soft, kind, and beloved by everyone who meets her. She waves at me with a bright, genuine smile. "Sarah," she calls out, her voice like a bell that cuts through the noise of the city. She's so cute, it actually hurts. Looking at her, it's hard to imagine how the original Sarah could ever harbor murderous intent towards someone so innocent. We sit down for tea, the atmosphere a sharp contrast to the cold tension of my office. She worries about my amnesia, her sweetness almost overwhelming. She really is the perfect female lead. Every positive adjective applies to her. Kind, pretty, gentle. She's the light that makes my shadows look even darker. I close my eyes, trying to remember the original plot. My hatred for her was my undoing. If I can just be her friend, maybe I can rewrite my ending. We sit by the window, the garden a lush, beautiful backdrop for a conversation that feels like a minefield. I have to keep things peaceful. She tells me how worried she was when I went silent. 10 years of friendship, and I've become a stranger to her overnight. I give her a vague excuse about being overwhelmed with work. I can't tell her the truth, that I'm a woman from another world trying to avoid a gruesome death. She reaches out, her touch gentle and reassuring. She's so sweet, so thoughtful, and I feel like a fraud sitting across from her. I try to smile back, to be the friend she remembers. Maybe if I can just stay in this moment, the rest of the world will stay away. But of course, the world has other plans. A group of women approaches our table, their smiles as sharp as glass. My memory is fuzzy, and I have no idea who these people are. Are they friends? Rivals? In this life, it's hard to tell the difference. They look at me with a mix of curiosity and disdain, their eyes scanning my outfit, my face, my every move. They ask to join us, their voices dripping with a fake sincerity that makes my skin crawl. They aren't here for Seongyong, they're here for me. Seongyong looks at me, seeking my approval. She's too polite to say no, too kind to see the wolves at the door. I take a sip of my tea, trying to hide my annoyance. I just wanted a quiet afternoon, a moment to breathe away from the drama. Seonkyung laughs, welcoming them with open arms. She has no idea she's just invited a storm to our table. I'm surrounded by people who hate me, trapped in a social ritual I don't understand. Give me a break, I think, as the first question is aimed right at my heart. I sit here, sipping tea and listening intently, trying to piece together a life that I still don't fully recognize as my own. But the tension in this room is thick enough to cut with a knife, to say the very least. These women talk about luxury brands and dating as if it's a competitive sport, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Seongyong smiles, the perfect picture of grace, while the others discuss how marriage isn't a decision to be taken lightly. They shower her with compliments, making it clear she's the one everyone admires for her beauty and seemingly perfect personality. Then they turn the spotlight on me, mentioning a boyfriend who supposedly just returned to Korea. I can feel their eyes searching for a reaction, a single crack in the mask I'm desperately trying to wear. This rich girl's conversation is getting way too intense. I need to find an excuse to get out of here before I slip up. Why are they suddenly roping me into this? I just want to disappear into the background and be forgotten. Seongyong plays the peacemaker, claiming our past conflict was just a simple misunderstanding between us. She brings up my amnesia like it's a tragic plot point, telling them I don't remember much about what happened. The whispers start immediately. They don't buy it, thinking I'm just full of surprises and convenient excuses. They criticize my makeup and my style, doing everything they can to make me feel like an outsider in their circle. Seong-gyung claims to be envious of the effort I put into my appearance, but the words feel like a carefully crafted insult. She talks about having real confidence, while I struggle just to keep my hands from shaking under the table. Her smile never quite reaches her eyes. It's a warning wrapped in a compliment, and I feel the chill. As the sun sets on this awkward gathering, I think I'm finally free to catch my breath and leave this facade behind. But Seon-young isn't done with me yet. She has one more thing to say before I can walk away. She reminds me of a launch party this week, an invitation she knows I can't easily refuse without looking suspicious. She looks at me with that same unsettlingly sweet expression, waiting for me to confirm I'll be there. I watch them walk away, their laughter echoing in the empty parking lot as they head off together. Behind my back, the claws come out instantly. They're convinced my memory loss is just a pathetic act to avoid an apology. They're waiting for me to stir things up again, as if I'm some kind of monster they need to be on guard against. Later that night, the silence of the house is deafening as the weight of their judgment truly sinks in. I sit in a daze, the fragments of the original Sarah's life finally starting to surface in the darkness of my room. The memories come flooding back, and they're much darker and more violent than I ever imagined. A crash, a scream, a scene of pure, unadulterated chaos from a past that I didn't actually live through. I see the original Sarah, fueled by rage, accusing Seon-gyung of feeding lies to her fiancé. Everyone is horrified, watching the notorious villainess lose her mind in front of the entire social circle. Seon-gyung looks so small and innocent, gasping in shock as the accusations and threats fly her way. The original Sarah didn't care about her reputation. She was determined to make everyone suffer as much as she did. A knife? She actually threatened her with a knife? No wonder they all look at me with such primal fear now. If I had actually hurt her back then, there would be no coming back from this. The damage would be irreparable. I realize now why a simple apology wouldn't be enough. I should have tried to make amends the moment we met. But would she have even accepted it? Just like Rowan, everyone has already decided who I am and what I'm capable of. Seong-kyung's kindness was never real. It was just a way to keep her enemy close and watch me struggle. At first, I thought we could actually find common ground, but that was just a naive dream in this world of nightmares. How is it that after a brush with death, not a single person has shown me even a spark of genuine concern? A few days later, the night of the Realm launch party arrives, and the world is waiting for me to fail. I never thought I'd see the day I'd wear a dress this elegant, but I have to play the part of the heiress perfectly. I try calling Jaeon, but he's ignoring me again, leaving me to face this hostile crowd all on my own. The building looms over me, its golden lights feeling more like a cage than a celebration of wealth. The click of the car door sounds like a finality. I'm truly on my own in this sea of strangers. Jaeon is there, looking as cold and untouchable as the corporate empire he represents. He offers a hand, but it's a gesture of pure obligation, his eyes never even bothering to meet mine. He doesn't even bother to respond when I speak. He just walks ahead, expecting me to follow like a dutiful accessory. The grandeur of the ballroom only makes me feel more isolated, a small figure in a vast, empty space of luxury. And then, without a single word of explanation or a backward glance, he just ditches me and walks away. I'm standing there, his fiancée, abandoned in the middle of a crowd that's already judging my every move. I've never even been to a party like this before. I don't know the rules, and I don't have a single ally in sight. I'll just stay for an hour. 1 hour of toughing it out, and then I can go back to being no one again. I find a corner to lurk in, hoping the shadows will keep me hidden from the prying eyes of the elite. But as it turns out, I'm not as invisible as I hoped. A voice I'm starting to know all too well cuts through the air. Director Seo, Jung-won. He's the very last person I expected to find me in my hideout. He's looking at me with that playful, observant glint, as if he can see right through my defenses. He tells me I look beautiful and could be the guest of honor, but I can't tell if he's being sincere or just teasing me again. I tell him to go elsewhere if he's just here to start another strange argument I don't have the energy for. He doesn't listen. Instead, he offers me a bite of food, his closeness making the air feel suddenly thin and electric. I try to push him away and tell him to stop getting in my face, but his laughter is infectious. Of course, Sen-kyung chooses that exact moment to appear, looking like a vision in her floral dress. I try to play it off as a casual greeting between acquaintances, but I can see her mind working overtime. She smiles, but her eyes are sharp and calculating, searching for any sign of a relationship between us. The two of them look like they belong together, part of a world I'm only visiting with a temporary pass. I make a quick exit, giving them space to talk about whatever important things they share in this social hierarchy. I catch a glimpse of her face as I walk away, a mix of curiosity and something much more suspicious. I turn my back on them, the weight of their world feeling heavier than ever before. Jung-won looks troubled for a second, his gaze following me as I disappear into the crowd of faceless guests. But Seon-gyung is already reclaiming his attention, her hand on his arm in a practiced gesture of intimacy. She asks him what we were chatting about, her voice sweet but her intentions clear as day. He brushes it off with a casual response, but I know that being seen with him has already put a target on my back. If the soap opera follows its original story, those two are supposed to be getting engaged very soon. And here I am, the obstacle in their path, abandoned by a fiancé who couldn't wait to ditch me. I catch sight of Rowan in the crowd. No surprise he's here with the other key executives, fitting in perfectly. I'm a fish out of water, a fraud in an expensive dress, just waiting for the world to notice I don't belong. The real Jihan would be an office drone, not a woman sitting on a velvet chair in a palace built on lies. I'm just a placeholder for a woman who disappeared because she couldn't take the pressure of this meaningless existence. I can't help but wonder, did the original Sarah feel the same disconnect, the same hollow ache of being entirely alone? Disregarded as a vice president, a fiancé, and even a friend, she was a ghost even before she vanished. Maybe that's why she abandoned this role and disappeared. I wish I could do the same right now. I've been here an hour, and that's more than enough. There's nothing left for me to do but walk away. I start walking toward the exit, my only goal to reach the safety of the night and leave this nightmare behind. I don't notice the man watching me from the shadows, his eyes filled with a terrifying, singular resolve. He's been waiting for this moment, his anger simmering beneath the surface like a hidden, deadly fire. I sense something is wrong, a sudden shift in the air that makes the hair on my neck stand up. I pick up my pace, but it's already too late. The shadows are reaching for me. A sudden movement, a blur of motion in my peripheral vision, and then everything goes horribly wrong. Someone is there, coming right at me with a speed and aggression that I can't possibly outrun. A hand reaches out, fast and violent, its intent clear even before it makes contact with my skin. He grabs my hair with a brutal yank, a sharp pain radiating through my scalp as my head is snapped back. He's screaming at me, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred that I can't begin to understand. He slams me down onto the carpeted floor with a force that leaves me gasping for air and reeling in shock. I'm terrified and confused, my mind racing to figure out who this man is and what the original Sarah did to him. He blames me for his daughter, Yongsun. His words are a jagged blade cutting through the silence of the party. The crowd starts to buzz with a mix of excitement and horror, their murmurs like a swarm of angry bees. Jongwon hears the commotion and looks toward the source of the noise, his face going pale with realization. He sees me on the floor, and for the first time, I see a flicker of genuine concern in his eyes. Security finally steps in, pinning the man to the ground as he continues to struggle and shout at me. But he won't stop screaming, calling me a piece of trash and demanding to know how I could do that to his daughter. I'm trembling and gasping for air, my face stinging from the assault as I try to process the accusations. The whispers are getting louder, the judgment of the crowd feeling even more painful than the physical blows. I'm left alone on that red carpet, a broken spectacle for their amusement and a target for their collective scorn. Jongwon pushes through the crowd, his face set in a grim expression of shock and determination. He sees the state I'm in, the blood, the fear, and the utter vulnerability of a woman who has lost her footing. And then, Seong-gyong is there, dropping to her knees beside me in a performative display of distress. She's apologizing over and over, acting like she's the one who failed me by letting that man approach. She tells a story about how she couldn't say no to him, how she had no idea things would turn out like this. She looks so genuinely distressed, the perfect picture of a caring friend in front of an audience of peers. I see the blood on my own hands, the physical evidence of a past I'm still being punished for, even if I don't remember it. I can't take it anymore, the lies, the performance, and the suffocating fake concern from a woman I know hates me. I look her straight in the eyes, all my frustration and pain bubbling to the surface in a single, cold moment. I tell her to shut her mouth, and the sudden silence that follows is more powerful than any scream I could have let out. I stumble to my feet, my dress torn and my dignity in tatters, but I refuse to let them see me break further. The crowd watches me leave, their judgment a heavy, suffocating cloak that I'm forced to wear as I walk away. They're already labeling me again, calling me the loose cannon of the Sangwon group, who probably deserved it. I walk into the night, leaving behind their whispers and a life that was never truly mine to begin with. Every day in this body feels like walking a tightrope. One slip and the life I've built disappears. I'm exhausted after tonight's gathering. The weight and expectations is becoming unbearable. What was meant to be networking turned into a brutal power struggle with Seong-gyong. I had to keep my guard up every single second, playing the part of the perfect Sarah Shin. But for the first time, I felt like I was actually starting to make real connections. Maybe that's why I let my guard down with the wine. I drank far more than I should have. My vision swims as I reach for the railing. My legs feel like lead. The world tilts suddenly. Gravity takes over before I can even let out a gasp. I reach out blindly, but there's nothing to catch my fall. A sharp sting of reality hits me as I collide with the cold, hard surface. I look pathetic, sprawled out in the middle of the night like a clown. I'm lucky I didn't break my neck over absolutely nothing. Then a shadow looms over me, a familiar presence I wasn't expecting. Rowan looks like he's seen a ghost. His eyes are wide with shock. I'm just lying here, too drained to even care how ridiculous this looks. He calls my name, his voice laced with a mix of concern and disbelief. I look up at him, the world still spinning in slow, dizzying circles. I manage a weak greeting, finding the absurdity of the situation almost funny. These stairs feel like a mountain I simply don't have the strength to climb. I decide this is a perfectly good place to sleep. I don't even have work tomorrow. He isn't having it, reaching down to pull me up with a firm grip. I'm the black sheep of this family anyway. Why does he care if I'm scolded? He stares at me, his expression unreadable and far too intense for my comfort. He finally gives in, hauling me up and guiding me toward my room. Every step is a struggle as he supports my weight. He's clearly annoyed. He doesn't let go despite his irritation. He's far more patient than I deserve. I whisper for him to just take me to the bed. I'm so incredibly sleepy. He looks completely exasperated by my demands, but he doesn't stop. Finally, the soft mattress meets my back. The world begins to fade. He tries to turn away, but my hand moves on instinct. He pauses, caught off guard by the sudden contact. I grab his arm, pulling him back toward me with surprising strength. He's shocked, his eyes wide as he loses his balance in the dark. We land together on the bed, the air leaving his lungs in a sharp rush. For a second, the distance between us vanishes. I can feel his heartbeat. My mind is hazy, but there's a question burning in my chest. Tell me, are you close with Seon-young Lee? He looks baffled by the sudden interrogation. Where's this coming from? At the gathering today, she kept acting like she knew you so well. He's silent for a long moment, his eyes searching mine for an answer. I struggle to keep my eyes open, my pride flaring up through the alcohol. I'm the one who knows you better. I'm the one who's here. He's speechless, frozen by the weight of my drunken honesty. Before he can find his voice, sleep finally wins the battle. He's left there, stunned by the woman snoring softly in his arms. Several days pass, and the professional mask is firmly back in place. I have a new secretary now, Jiyoung Lee. She seems capable enough. It's time to focus on the plan and secure my position within this family. I need to be ruthless to get the freedom I truly desire. Every move must be calculated. The next few months will be a nightmare. Embracing this life is a high price, but I'm willing to pay it. I'll use whatever shield I have to keep my future plans intact. I need a moment of peace, even if it's just a quick canned coffee. But some people refuse to stay in the past. It's as if he read my mind. Jongwon So appears. He's a ticking bomb I need to avoid. I must completely ignore him and exclude him from my new life. He looks at me with that fake concern that makes my skin crawl. He thinks he has me figured out, but he has no idea who I am. He asks about my wound, trying to play the part of the worried friend. I have no time for his games. I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. I dismiss him coldly, ready to walk away and never look back. But he isn't taking the hint. His hand snaps out to stop me. His grip is firm, a physical manifestation of his refusal to let go. "Why are you avoiding me?" he asks, his voice low and demanding. I remind him that our business was already settled. I have nothing for him. Then he says it. "Let's go on a date, Sarah." I can't believe the audacity. What is this nonsense now? He smiles as if he's offering me a gift I should be grateful for. He promises good food and a nice drive, trying to charm me. My head throbs with the sheer frustration of dealing with this man. I look him dead in the eye, done playing nice. Listen carefully, Jongwon. I tell him clearly that I've been put off by him from the very first day. Besides, I'm engaged. I have no reason to meet other men. And I know all about your supposed engagement to Sen Young. I'm not going on a date with my friend's fiancé. Let this go. I turn my back on him, leaving him standing there in the hallway. Does he think I'm some sixth grader he can easily sway with a date? He watches me walk away, the confusion finally starting to set in. He has no idea what I'm talking about, but his confusion is his problem, not mine. Every step feels like I'm dragging the weight of a life that isn't mine. I thought I could just hide in the shadows, but the original Sira Shin left behind a legacy of pain that I can't just walk away from. I spent so much time trying to be invisible, thinking that if I just smiled and stayed quiet, the world would leave me alone. I was wrong. The real Sira Shin was disregarded by everyone. She was a ghost in her own life long before I took over her body. Isolated at parties, ignored at home. Maybe that's why she simply vanished, leaving me to face the consequences of her choices. I used to wish I could do the same, just disappear and go back to a world where I understood the rules. But I was naive. I thought I could sidestep this mess with shallow reasoning, never realizing how deep the rot actually went. When Mr. Beck pulled up, the physical exhaustion was finally catching up to me. I was a mess, and I didn't care who saw it anymore. I was surprised to see him. I didn't think anyone was actually looking for me after that disaster in the ballroom. I had to pull myself together. If I was going to survive this, I couldn't let anyone see how terrified I really was. But as I collapsed into the seat, the mask finally slipped. I didn't have any strength left to fight. He wanted to take me to the hospital, but the thought of more questions and more eyes on me was too much. I just wanted to go home. I tried to focus on the immediate problems. That man from earlier, the one who attacked me, he had a look in his eyes that I couldn't forget, a look of pure, justified hatred. Mr. Bake hesitated. His profile was tense, and for a second I saw a flicker of pity in his gaze that made my blood run cold. Then he asked the question that changed everything. He asked if I really didn't remember. The silence in the car was heavy as he began to recount a story I had no memory of, a story of a woman who used her power like a weapon. He told me that during a period of high stress, I had treated a security employee with such cruelty that it broke her. She had fallen into a deep depression. She had tried to take her own life because of words I was supposed to have said. The man at the party was her father. He wasn't a random attacker. He was a parent seeking justice for a daughter I had destroyed. I covered my face, the shame of a stranger's actions burning through me. I am living in the skin of a monster. I told him we had to stop. No legal teams, no cover-ups. We had to find a way to make it right. I told him to give them whatever they wanted. Money, a sincere apology. I'd get on my knees if that's what it took to fix what she broke. I asked him if there were others. I needed to know how many lives were ruined by the woman everyone thinks I am. He looked at me as if he were seeing me for the first time. The shock on his face was a testament to how low the bar for Sarah Shin really was. The truth is, I can't remember any of it. Not the cruelty, not the faces, not the victims. She considered these acts so trivial that they didn't even leave a mark on her memory, but they left marks on everyone else. How many more of these forgotten sins are waiting for me in the dark? How many more people are waiting for their chance at revenge? I'm not just trapped in a story anymore. I'm trapped in a horrible, jagged reality where people bleed because of me. For a moment, I lost my sense of reality. I wanted to believe this was all just some twisted soap opera script, but the scars on my arms and the tears in my eyes are real. I need to get my act together. I can't let myself be swayed by every blow. This is no longer a game. It's a fight for survival. And if I have to be the villain they expect, I'll be the most dangerous one they've ever seen. The next morning, the office felt like a battlefield. I walked in with a purpose that surprised even me. The director burst into my office, red-faced and shouting, demanding an explanation for his sudden transfer. He thought he could still intimidate me. He thought I was just the chairman's spoiled daughter playing dress-up. He was stunned when I didn't flinch. The silence in the room was deafening as he realized the power dynamic had shifted. He tried to bow, offering a hollow apology for his past behavior. He's a coward who only respects the person holding the leash. I didn't even look at him. I just leaned back, watching him squirm in the chair he thought he owned. I let the silence stretch until he was sweating. I wanted him to feel every second of his own uncertainty. Then I showed him exactly why his career was over. I held up my phone, the recording app open and ready. I played back the audio of him trashing me in the lounge. Every insult, every laugh at my expense. It was all there. He had said the chairman's child rearing was a complete failure. He had mocked my position and my intelligence. He had claimed I lacked business acumen. He sounded so confident when he thought I wasn't listening. I told him his jokes were killer. The irony was thick enough to choke on. The panic on his face was the first bit of genuine satisfaction I've had since I woke up in this body. He tried to claim it was a misunderstanding. It was pathetic. I told him not to bother with the cliches. I told him I might reconsider the transfer if he could prove he was actually capable of following orders. From now on, Every business matter requires my personal approval. No more backroom deals, no more talking behind my back. It's time to restructure this entire company. I can't do my job when Rowan has half the board in his pocket. I need to dig deep into the company's affairs. I need to reclaim the shares I've been denied. It's not going to be easy. My head feels like it's about to explode, and the pressure is mounting every day. As if the internal politics weren't enough, I have other shadows to deal with, specifically Seon-Gyung Lee. She was the one who managed the guest list at the party. She was the one who let that man in. She played the part of the concerned friend, apologizing for things she orchestrated. She claimed she couldn't say no to him. She played the pure intentions card perfectly. She knew exactly what would happen if that man confronted me. She wanted the scene. In other words, the female lead scored a hit against the villainess, just like the script intended. I leaned back and stretched, trying to shake off the tension. It's unbelievable how petty this revenge feels when you're the one being targeted. I should have seen it coming. I should have gotten my act together a lot sooner. I stood in the kitchen, the silence of the apartment feeling more like a prison than a home. Then I heard footsteps. Someone was here, and the air immediately grew cold. Jungwon was standing there. He looked at me with that same detached, clinical gaze he always has. He doesn't see me. He sees a problem to be solved, a contract to be maintained. We stood in that massive room, miles apart, even though we were only a few feet away. I looked at the bandages on my arm. Every one of them was a reminder of the night he let me fall. He didn't ask if I was hurt. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He just stared. Back at the party, the murmurs of the crowd had been like physical blows. He had known something was wrong. He heard the commotion near the entrance. He told the others to stay put while he went to check it out. He wanted to maintain the image of the responsible fiancé. And then he saw me. He saw me on the floor, humiliated and alone. He watched as I struggled to get up, watched as the security guards dragged the man away. He heard the guests whispering about how pathetic it was that he was just standing there. They wondered why they had been apart the whole time. They wondered why he wasn't protecting me. But he didn't move. He didn't reach out. He just watched the spectacle unfold. He told himself a confrontation would only make it worse. He chose his own comfort over my safety. He stood there in his perfect suit while I was falling apart on a purple carpet. He decided that going over would just lead to another scene. He was more afraid of embarrassment than he was of my pain. I was left to handle it alone. I was left to realize that I really am on my own in this world. He probably felt a moment of hesitation, but it wasn't enough to make him act like a human being. Finally, he picked up the phone, not to call me, but to call Mr. Beck. He told him to get a car ready, not out of love, but out of a need to remove the embarrassment from the building. He said I was in trouble. His voice was as flat and cold as a sheet of ice. I don't need him. I don't need his pity or his calculated assistance. If he wants to be a stranger, then that's what he'll be. I'll find my own way out of this drama, and I won't be looking back. The air in the kitchen feels thick with a tension I can't quite name, especially with him standing right there. Jungwon is watching me, his presence a silent weight that follows every move I make. I try to keep my voice steady, offering a simple cup of coffee as if everything is normal between us, but the words feel hollow. I can't help but wonder if he's looking for the woman I used to be or the one I'm becoming. We pass each other like ghosts in our own home, the distance between us growing even when we're only inches apart. He stops me, his voice low and cautious, uttering my name like it's a question he's afraid to answer. I freeze, my heart hammering against my ribs. What could he possibly want to say now? He asks if I'm all right, and for a second, I see a flicker of something that looks almost like concern. I turn away, unable to meet his eyes. I don't want his pity, and I certainly don't want his kindness. His expression remains unreadable, a mask of cool indifference that he wears so well. I force a smile, though it feels brittle and fake on my face. I have to keep up the act. I insist that I'm perfectly fine, even mentioning the hospital trip to prove I've got everything under control. With a quick good night, I turn on my heel, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the kitchen. I can still feel his eyes on my back, watching me retreat into the shadows of the hallway. I practically throw myself into my room, the door clicking shut behind me like a shield. Leaning against the wood, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, my hands trembling. What is wrong with him? Why is he acting like he cares all of a sudden? I expected him to be cruel, to tell me I got what I deserved, but this is worse. Tears prick at my eyes, frustrating and unbidden. I shouldn't be crying over a man who barely knows I exist. I wipe them away furiously. I have to be stronger than this if I'm going to survive in this world. Meanwhile, Rowan stands alone in the kitchen, his thoughts as dark and bitter as the coffee he's making. He seems troubled, haunted by the memory of the woman who just walked out of the room. I keep replaying the moment in my head, the way he looked at me, the way his voice softened. His eyes, usually so sharp and cold, held a depth I haven't seen before, and it terrifies me. The next day at the office, I try to bury my confusion in work, focusing on the data and the reports. The meeting is grueling, but I hold my own, answering every question with a confidence I'm starting to actually feel. I can feel the shift in the room, the way my colleagues are starting to look at me with newfound respect. I won't let them see any weakness. I'm not the fragile heiress they think I am. Later, Mr. Bayak brings me a cup of tea and mentions that my internal evaluations have significantly improved. I thank him, truly grateful for his support during these past few difficult days. He tells me that even the chairman has been asking about my recent activities, which is a rare occurrence. Chairman Shin, my father in name, but a complete stranger in every other sense. I recall the times he's ignored me in the office, treating me like an invisible nuisance rather than his own daughter. He rarely leaves his private space, and we barely speak even when we're in the same house. His profile is always stern and unforgiving, a man driven by power and profit above all else. But maybe I'm not completely out of favor if he's at least curious about what I'm doing. I mentioned that Rowan also checked on me, though I expected him to just yell at me for making a mess. I try to sound casual, but the mere mention of his name makes my pulse quicken. Mr. Beck looks at me with a serious expression, as if he's weighing whether or not to tell me a secret. He admits that things are complicated between us, but there's something I need to know about that night. I wait, my breath hitching in my throat. What could he possibly tell me that I don't already know? He reveals that it was Rowoon who instructed him to wait by the ballroom that day. I'm stunned. Why would Rowoon do something like that? It doesn't make any sense. Mr. Beck explains that Rowoon called him, saying I was in deep trouble and needed immediate help. So his arrival wasn't a coincidence. Rowoon was actually worried about me, deep down. I struggle to reconcile this new information with the man who screamed in my face when I tried to run. The memory of his intensity, the way he looked at me in the dark, sends a shiver down my spine. I don't know what to think anymore. Whatever his reasons, I have more pressing concerns to deal with. I stretch my aching muscles, the exhaustion of the day finally starting to catch up with me. The review is done, and now I have to tackle the financial report. The work never seems to end. I'm really not in the mood to keep going, but I have a timeline to keep up with if I want to succeed. I decide to grab some food first, hoping a quick break will give me the energy I need to finish. I walk through the bright, modern lobby of the office building, my heels clicking rhythmically on the floor. Suddenly, a voice calls out to me, a familiar tone that stops me in my tracks. It's a man I haven't seen in a while, and he seems surprised to find me here. He has a sly, knowing look in his eyes that immediately puts me on edge. I apologize and ask who he is, my memory's still a bit foggy from everything that's happened. He chuckles, noting that the rumors about my memory loss must be true after all. He introduces himself as Paul, his smile widening in a way that feels uncomfortably intimate. Paul, the name sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't quite place it. Then it hits me. He's the fortune teller that CEOs in soap operas are always consulting. He tells me my spirit and energy have changed since we last met, his gaze searching my face. I laugh it off, trying to make light of his cryptic comments. I just want to go eat. But he turns serious, telling me that my life is now beyond the realm of what he dares to predict. I am not sure what to make of that. Is it a warning or a promise of something better? I quickly excuse myself, citing my lunch break as the perfect reason to escape the conversation. He watches me go, a thoughtful expression on his face that lingers in my mind long after I've left. The sun has set by the time I finally make it home, the modern architecture of the house glowing in the night. I'm exhausted, but at least I managed to get back at a decent hour for once. All I want to do is wash up, put on some ointment, and fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. But as I open the door, I see a figure lying on the floor, and my heart nearly stops. It's Rowan. He's collapsed right by the entrance, still in his suit, motionless. I rush to his side, my panic rising as I call out his name, but there's no response. Is he passed out? I check for a pulse, my hands shaking as I try to assess the situation. I wonder if I should call an ambulance, but I don't want to wake Mrs. Song and cause a scene. I decide to help him up to his room, straining under his weight as I lead him down the hallway. The room is quiet and dimly lit, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my head. I lay him down on the bed, his face pale and drawn in the soft light of the lamp. He blinks slowly, his eyes unfocused as he tries to figure out where he is and what's happened. He looks so vulnerable like this, stripped of his usual arrogance and power. I tell him he's awake, trying to keep my voice calm and reassuring for both our sakes. I bring him some medicine and a bowl of porridge, insisting that he eat something before he goes back to sleep. He seems confused, his hand resting on his chest as if he's trying to steady his own heart. I explain that I found him collapsed and got advice from Dr. Kim, who said he's just overworked. I try to keep the mood light, telling him that even a vice president needs to take care of himself. He glances at me, a strange look in his eyes that I can't quite decipher. He asks if I made the porridge myself, his voice a low rasp that makes my breath catch. I nod, admitting that it's a bit bland, but it's the best thing for someone who's sick. He looks at me for a long moment, the silence between us growing more intense with each passing second. I start to ramble, embarrassed by his scrutiny and the sudden intimacy of the moment. I tell him I just looked up a recipe online, trying to downplay the effort I put into it. I wonder if the original Sarah Shin knew how to cook, or if she was always as helpless as people thought. He takes a small bite, his expression unreadable as he tastes the simple meal I prepared. He nibbles at it slowly, his focus entirely on the food, and for a moment, the tension seems to fade. Then he asks if I'm just going to sit there, and I realize I've been staring at him for far too long. I quickly stand up, my face burning with embarrassment as I make my way toward the door. What am I saying? Have I completely lost my mind to think that he looked cute while eating? I must be more tired than I thought. It's definitely time for me to hit the sack and forget all of this. I told her I wasn't going. The thought of facing that crowd again, after everything that's happened, makes my skin crawl. But she's right. I'm not exactly a spring chicken in this world. I can't afford to just hide away and hope things get better. If I want to survive this drama and avoid a gruesome end, I have to be visible. I have to play the game. Establishing my position is the only way to protect myself. I need to handle both the internal family politics and my external reputation. She has a point, even if it's frustrating. If I don't take control of the narrative now, I'll always be the victim. Wait, since it's come to this, why not kill two birds with one stone? I can fix my image and test Jaeon at the same time. Fine, I'll go. But I'm doing this on my terms, and I'm going to make sure everyone sees exactly what I want them to see. The gallery opening is the perfect stage for a public reappearance. It's high stakes, high society, and filled with prying eyes. I make sure every detail of my appearance is perfect. I need to look untouchable, not like the woman who collapsed on the floor. Walking in with Jaeon, I can feel the weight of every gaze in the room. This is the moment the loose cannon becomes the perfect fiancé. He looks as stiff and distant as ever, but for tonight, he's my best asset. I just need him to stay by my side. I can see the confusion in his eyes. He doesn't understand why I'm suddenly so willing to play along. I lean in closer, keeping up the act for the benefit of the crowd. I need him to behave like a proper date, just for a few hours. If he has a conscience, he'll cooperate. I'm giving him the chance to save his own reputation along with mine. He gives me a curt nod. He's playing his part even if he hates it. That's all I can ask for right now. He probably thinks I've abandoned the idea of calling off the engagement because I'm clinging to him like this. Is that how it seems? Good. Let him be complacent. It only makes my eventual departure more powerful. I put on my best smile, humming a silent victory as we navigate the room. The performance has begun. Meeting the elite is a choreographed dance of pleasantries and fake smiles. I'm determined to lead. I play the role of the charming Madam Vice President, leaving Jaeon completely baffled by my poise. I even managed to convey the chairman's congratulations, acting as the perfect bridge between our families. Every interaction is a calculated move. I want them to see a woman who is in control, not one on the verge of a breakdown. Jaeon is watching me with an intensity I can't quite place. He's never seen me this sociable, this capable. He doesn't realize that for me, this is a battle for survival. Every handshake is a fortification of my future. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I see her. Seongyung's circle is never far away when there's social blood in the water. One of her friends approaches me, looking hesitant. I recognize her from the cafe. She was always the most reserved. She's a high-ranking chaebol daughter, but she doesn't have the same sharp edge as the others. She tells me she wanted to call but didn't have my number. It's a small opening, but a significant one. She invites me to their regular gathering this Saturday. If I'm free, she says, she'd love for me to join. I know exactly what this is. This is an invitation into the inner sanctum of power. It's exactly what I needed. I give her my number without hesitation. I can see her relief and perhaps a genuine spark of interest. She seems more approachable than the others. I'll assume her intentions are pure for now, but I won't lower my guard. More importantly, I'm starting to see the tide turning. The social wall they built around me is cracking. At this party, I sense a gradual shift in how people perceive me. The Mad Woman label is being replaced by something else. Until now, I was seen as the shame of the Sangwon group, a loose cannon rejected even by her own fiancé. But simply by accompanying Jaeon and displaying a confident smile, I've rewritten the script. Those who witnessed this firsthand appear to have dismissed the earlier evaluations as mere gossip. They assume we've rekindled our relationship after an intense lover's spat. Let them believe the romance. Seeing is believing, after all. It's far more effective to demonstrate my worth than to address every bit of petty gossip. Jaeon asks if it's really necessary to cling to his arm like this. He's clearly uncomfortable with the intimacy. I tell him it's the best way to convey our closeness without needing to say a word. It's a tactical move, nothing more. Suddenly, I pause. I should have expected her to be here. A party like this is her natural habitat. She glides toward us, draped in her usual aura of manufactured innocence. Seongyung is ready to play. She greets me with that saccharine sweetness that always feels like a threat. She's already testing the waters. She introduces herself as my best friend to Jaeon, even though she knows I've never liked that term. Then she brings up the accident at the previous party, her voice dripping with fake concern for my wound. She claims she was so worried that she had no idea things would turn out like that. She's building a narrative of her own. She asks if I'm still upset, if that's why I've been ignoring her calls. She wants the crowd to see me as the petty one. I just smile. I tell her I was in the middle of an important conversation with Jaeon. My focus is exactly where it should be. She looks taken aback. She's not used to me being this dismissive, this cool. The Mad Woman doesn't usually act like this. I tell her it wasn't only her calls I didn't answer. I've been swamped with work, too busy for anyone. I assure her I'm not upset at all, so she shouldn't stress over it. It's a freezing, polite dismissal that leaves her nowhere to go. I leave her standing there.
That habit of hers, pushing blame while pretending she did her best, it doesn't work on me anymore. Jaeon asks if she's really my friend. He's finally starting to see the cracks in her saintly facade. I tell him things are complicated. I assure him that what happened at the last party was their mistake, not ours. I can see him processing everything. He's realized that my social circle is far more treacherous than he ever imagined.
He looks back at her, his expression unreadable. He's seeing a side of the story he never bothered to look at before. Is that how she always speaks? He's finally noticing the subtle manipulation, the way she pushes people to their limits. I just give him a knowing look. I don't need to say anything more. The truth is starting to reveal itself. I still carry the physical and emotional bruises from his neglect that night. He seems guilty now, but guilt isn't enough. He's watching her now, perhaps for the first time, with eyes that aren't clouded by the original story's bias. The room is bustling, the atmosphere heavy with the weight of unsaid things. Every glance is a potential conflict. I remember the humiliation of being left behind. I won't let that happen again. I'm the one in control now. Jaeon is deep in thought, his brows furrowed. He's beginning to realize how far I've been pushed. As we head down for the cocktail event, the crowd is thick. I have to stay focused on my performance. He's watching my every move now, as if he's afraid I'll disappear or break. It's a strange new dynamic. He seems to have realized she's gotten on the bad side of a rather peculiar lady. That would be me. He asks why I asked about Seon-young earlier. I can tell he's curious about my sudden interest in her. I tease him, asking if she caught his attention. His reaction is priceless, annoyed and completely flustered. It's obvious from the drama's plot that those two were meant to end up together, yet he's acting completely oblivious. We stand on the balcony, looking out over the exhibition hall. It feels more like a palace than a gallery. I thank him for keeping me company today. I tell him I was half expecting him to wander off alone again. I ask if he feels guilty about ditching me that day. If he doesn't, I tell him he's just heartless. He doesn't answer immediately. The silence between us is heavy with the memory of his past coldness. The bruise on my shoulder is a constant reminder of what happens when I rely on him. I won't make that mistake again. He looks at me, his expression softening for a brief moment. I wonder if he's finally starting to feel something. I suggest we head down for the cocktail event. I put on my mask again, ready for the next round. We walk down the stairs together, the perfect image of a high society couple. But underneath, the tension is simmering. The crowd is watching, whispering as we pass. Our performance is a success, but it's exhausting to maintain. Suddenly, a man nearby slips. The floor must be slippery, or perhaps he just lost his footing in the excitement. I feel a sudden jolt as someone stumbles toward me. For a second, I'm afraid I'm going to be knocked down again, but in a split second, Jaeon's arm is around me, pulling me back from the edge of the stairs. He's remarkably fast. He catches me firmly, his grip strong and protective. He's acting the hero, just like he should have done before. He warns the other man to be careful, his voice stern. He's so attentive now, so focused on my safety. He asks if I'm all right, his eyes scanning me for any sign of injury. It's almost enough to make me believe he cares. For someone capable of being so attentive, I can't help but wonder why he abandoned me at the round party. I thank him, giving him a genuine smile. At least he seems more like a decent human being when he behaves this way. The sun is setting on this performance. The party is finally over, and we're left with the reality of our situation. He asks me if I'd like to grab dinner. He sounds sincere, as if he actually wants to spend more time with me. I agree. I tell him I'd also like to continue our previous conversation. He looks confused, unsure of what I mean. He asks what I'm referring to. He truly thinks we've made progress tonight, that things are getting better. But I haven't forgotten the original plan. It's time we finished what we started. It's time to finally break this engagement. I decided there was no point in dragging this out. Sitting across from Jaeon in this cold, sterile high-rise, I realized that our entire relationship had been as artificial as the city lights below us. I offered him exactly what he wanted, a clean break. Whatever prize he thought he was winning by marrying me, I was willing to hand it over just to see the end of this engagement.
He watched me with that familiar, guarded expression. He's a man who calculates every move, and right now, he was trying to figure out where the trap was. I knew his secret. Despite his family's success, their roots in loan sharking meant they lacked the prestige they craved. An alliance with my family, the Songwon Group, was his only way up. Half of this engagement was my own doing, a desperate attempt to feel wanted, but the other half, that was purely for his personal gain. It all started to click. I finally understood why he would tolerate a woman he clearly despised for so long. He had been quietly building his own empire, a company called Lumitech, hidden within the shadows of the larger group.
He was aggressive, absorbing subsidiaries to solidify his power, but he had hit a ceiling. He needed Sangwon's diverse portfolio to create a real foundation for his future. So, I made him a proposal he couldn't refuse. I offered to shift 20% of our group's logistics deals directly to his secret company. It was a massive bribe, plain and simple, a golden parachute to soften the blow of losing a high society bride. I called it a parting gift. In reality, it was the price of my freedom. His eyes narrowed, a flash of genuine interest breaking through his icy exterior for the first time. But his ego wouldn't let him accept it that easily. He scoffed, calling my offer nothing more than an unrealistic delusion. I took a slow sip of my tea, letting the silence hang between us. He still thought he was the one holding all the cards. He reminded me that in the eyes of my family, I was the child cast aside. He thought I had no real influence, no power to move those shares. He even compared me to Rowan, pointing out that my abilities as a successor were lacking. To him, I was just a piece of property to be pawned off in the marriage market. It was typical. The moment his ego is bruised, he comes out swinging, trying to diminish me to keep himself feeling superior. I just smiled. He had no idea how much had changed since I woke up as Sarah Shin. I informed him that the audit team would be conducting a trade diagnosis soon, and they report directly to the chairman. Not even Rowan could stop them. The look of realization on his face was worth every penny of that deal. He was finally seeing the threat I posed. I asked him if he understood now. I was the daughter of Chairman Shin, and my support for Lumitech was conditional. He was silent, his mind racing. He couldn't comprehend why I was practically giving him his succession shares for free. He admitted that he didn't understand why I was doing this, why the sudden change of heart. He reminded me that not long ago, I was the one begging him to marry me. I looked him dead in the eye and told him the truth. I don't like him anymore, Jaeon. I listed every reason: the way he ignored me, the indifference, the one-sided attitude that never took my feelings into account, the rude words, the way he avoided his responsibilities just to save face. I was done with all of it. Telling him he was completely unappealing was the most satisfying thing I'd ever done. I had finally said everything I needed to say. By Saturday, the weight of the confrontation had lifted. I needed a change of pace, something normal. I met up with some acquaintances, hoping for a bit of a distraction from the corporate warfare. The atmosphere was relaxed, and for a moment, I could almost forget the drama surrounding my life. But then, she arrived. Seon-young walked in with that same practiced, gentle smile that I now knew was a complete mask. The tension in the room shifted immediately. Some people were meeting for the first time, while others looked visibly awkward. She scanned the room looking for her opening. She's always looking for a way to be the center of attention. She stood there, surrounded by her friends, looking like the perfect, innocent heroine of her own story. I caught her eye, and for a split second I saw it, the "what are you doing here" look behind her eyes. She acted surprised that I'd come, claiming she assumed I was too busy to take personal calls. I didn't let her play the victim. I told her I was the one who asked to come because I needed a change of pace. I even thanked her for being so thoughtful, knowing full well she had hoped I wouldn't show up. I dropped the bomb about my memory loss to the whole group. If I was going to act differently, I needed a reason they could all buy into. I explained that I had collapsed and hit my head, leading to a concussion and partial amnesia. The shock on their faces was genuine.
I even told them I hadn't recognized my own mother at first. They started fussing over me, asking if I should be taking it easy. It was a nice change from being the villain. I assured them I was fine now, thanks to the support of people like Rowan. Seong-young's ears perked up at the mention of Rowan. She tried to frame our relationship as one of constant bickering. She brought up a party where we were supposedly fighting, trying to paint a picture of a broken household. I corrected her with a smile. Rowan and I aren't on bad terms. In fact, we're quite close.
I told them that we live in the same house and that our bickering is more like sibling squabbles. As for Jaeon, I called it marital bickering. The friends immediately found it cute, much to Sungyang's visible frustration. They started complimenting Jaeon, calling him calm and composed. I played the part of the happy fiancée perfectly. I watched Sungyang. She's always used her perspective to skew the truth and ruin my reputation. She would make me look touchy and aggressive while she played the victim, merely telling the truth. But I wasn't going to let her control the narrative anymore. I decided to turn the tables. I asked her about her own life for a change. I brought up her boyfriend who had just returned to Korea. I mentioned seeing her arm in arm with director Jongwon So at a recent party. The room went quiet. The friends were shocked. They wanted to know everything about this mysterious boyfriend. I noticed two women at the end of the table go silent. They were the ones who used to gang up on me with Seong-young. They asked what he looked like, and I described him. Tall, handsome, and very distinctive. Seong-young took a deep breath and finally admitted it. He's not just a boyfriend, he's her fiancé. She claimed she was keeping it a secret until their engagement party, acting taken aback that her personal life was being exposed. It was a masterclass in manipulation. She was trying to make me look like the gossip for revealing her secret. She looked at me with those fake sweet eyes and said she was used to my bluntness. She was trying to reclaim her good girl status. But I could see the cracks. She was desperate to keep everyone on her side, no matter what it took. I just smiled back. I knew her game now, and I wasn't going to play by her rules anymore. I realized that every conversation we'd ever had was skewed by her perspective, carefully designed to isolate me. In the past, she would have succeeded in making me look like the villain of the story. She'd play the terrified innocent, while I was framed as the unstable, aggressive one. But the more she tried to hide behind that mask, the more obvious her intentions became to me. I told her to give it a rest. She was wearing me out with the constant performance. The atmosphere at the table grew thick with unspoken words. The others were starting to see the friction between us. I challenged her to stop harping on me and share more about her own perfect life. She looked momentarily stunned, her carefully curated persona faltering for just a second. The friends looked between us, sensing that the old dynamic was being completely dismantled. I watched the two who used to follow her lead. They looked uncomfortable, unsure of who to side with now. Seong-young tried to laugh it off, but the sound was hollow. She was losing her grip on the group. She tried to pivot back to her engagement, hoping the news would be enough to keep the spotlight on her. But I was finished. I had seen through the heroine's mask, and there was nothing left to fear. She kept talking about Jungwon, trying to make their relationship sound like a fairy tale. She acted so modest, as if she were burdened by the attention she had worked so hard to get. I just sat back and watched the show. It was fascinating to see her scramble to maintain control. She was planning to tell everyone at some point, she claimed. She was always the victim of circumstance. She gave one last, shimmering smile, surrounded by the metaphorical flowers of her own making. But I saw the sweat on her brow. The perfect Seon-young was finally feeling the pressure, and I was just getting started.